Kevin. What's up, everybody? Welcome to All Things Fantasy Grounds Talk Show. It is Sunday night. It is 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, if you are a United States person. If you're not, welcome anyway, whatever day or time of night it is for you. Before we get started, I'd like to give the disclaimer, which we always try to remember to do, and that is that All Things Fantasy Grounds Talk Show is meant to teach and help those of you watching here on Twitch and on YouTube. But the opinions stated on the show do not reflect that of Smiteworks USA LLC or Fantasy Grounds. So if we say some fucked up shit, don't blame them, just blame me. Before we get to our guests, I'd like to welcome, as always, my co-hosts in no particular order. Furied Fate, how are you today?
I'm doing good, and I don't know if it's just me, but for some reason you're sounding a little robotic.
Me, I'm robotic. That could be a factor of Mike sharing his screen, which has never really traditionally worked out. But
It's usually like the last syllable of whatever you're saying. It starts to go into that robot.
yeah,
I
and
mean,
you
that's just me. Like I said, it could be my connection, but yeah.
okay? One of your words was just now anyway. We'll try and deal with it. Robin, how are you?
I am fantastic. How are you?
You love doing that.
Mhm.
I'm doing fine. I just woke up from a 6-hour nap, so I'll
Fuck
be
you.
good to go. That's my favorite joke.
Nap. You
Yeah.
got to take a nap.
The only thing
Okay,
I
first of all, 6 hours is not nap. It's
Yeah, that's
actual
sleep.
rest. Yeah,
right,
that's
yeah,
sleeping.
exactly. I got up at like 7 after sleeping for maybe 4 hours, and then I did some stuff, and then about 11 I was like, man, I'm still tired, and I went back to bed and woke up at 5. So that's how you do it. The only thing I like better than having a family, wife, and children is doing whatever the fuck I want, whenever the fuck I want. That's how my life is. All right, let's get to the guests. Let's welcome back Mr. Celestian. How are you, sir?
Doing good. And to me, you sound fine. I hear no robotics.
Okay, good. And then for the first time on our show, we have Mr. Stefan DeWolf. How are you?
Marvelous, simply marvelous.
Marvelous. I believe that word is not used enough in life. Saying it. All right, good. So here, what we're gonna do, everybody, is Celestian has screen shared his screen, and I'm gonna bring it up here as big as I can. Giggity. And this is the desktop in Fantasy Grounds for the second edition D&D rule set, which, by the way, if I'm 99% sure you made that, right?
Yes, sir.
I wanted to say 100, but I didn't want to look like an ass if I was wrong, so I said 99. So
Yeah, the base
So
code
sorry,
started
like,
off
so
from
different from
5e.
yeah, okay.
Oh, yeah.
So this is a thing that you have to buy. Someone in the chat just asked, was there a free version or an SRD of it? And there's not. If you want to play second edition, you do have to buy that on Fantasy Grounds. And as the prize for today's show, I will be giving away a copy of that. I will buy a rule set and give it to whoever wins that wants it. So go ahead, Celestian. I'll let you just control this conversation, and you can walk us through whatever you want, and we'll see about questions as we go and have a bunch of fun.
Wait, I had a
So,
thing to say.
Oh,
Wait,
okay.
wait, Celestian.
okay,
Sorry.
go for it.
For screen sharing purposes and everything, and for everybody on the stream, could you make your UI a little bit bigger? Scale the UI.
I can, but I
Isn't
don't know
that
what it's going to do.
Well,
Oh,
it'll make the text easier to read, I think is why she wants that.
Yeah, I just don't know if
Yeah.
it's going to mess up the menus I have set to show.
Oh,
oh.
I
Oh.
don't use Scale UI, so I don't know what you guys do. Is that better? Now, see, it's already sliding my thing
yeah,
around.
you can revert it if you want. It's actually slightly better, but not that much better. Like
I
I
just
can
wanted it to be easier for everybody else to see.
I can read it
Well,
on
the
my
text is Yeah, the text is not really relevant to what we're going to be covering
Okay,
tonight.
then
It's going to
yeah.
be features and stuff that are related to it. So
Okay, yeah, we'll move forward then. I can read that on both my monitor and my television where the stream is showing. But if
But
people are
did you
watching
have
on
like a big ass TV?
yeah, I'm at what's that place under Colorado that I'm at that I don't know the name of, the secret under a mountain. Never mind, that was a bad attempt at a joke. But go ahead, Mike.
So I was going to mention first off that the rule set actually is free. The NPCs and all that other stuff that are that you'll find in the records list are something that aren't included like they are with SRD. So the DMG or the Player's Handbook is where you'd find those.
Oh, so you can get the second edition rule set.
It comes with Fantasy Grounds.
Oh, I
You
didn't
get
even.
Fantasy Grounds. The rule set is there with. It's like 5e. It comes with it.
Okay, I thought I could have swore I bought that. NORAD, thank you, Diablo Bob. Okay, go ahead. I'll find out something else to give away then.
So what I wanted to cover now is some of the things that I've worked on recently. And one of those is the menu buttons. And you guys probably noticed right off the bat how it looks a lot different than the other UIs. This whole side over here is not taken up by a sidebar. You've got these little buttons up here, and when you pull them down, this is what was generally up on the top right, the buttons, your calendars, your libraries. And I've added some additional ones like the modules button will open straight into the modules. You don't have to go to the library and then click the modules button. There's also the setup button, which will bring this thing up. That's what normally pops up when you first log in. This one is the records. This is all the things that your characters, your class, your kids, all the other things that were listed there. And then lastly is the books. What this does is it will list out any module that you have loaded that has a reference manual. It'll put a link to that reference manual in here. So, you could just go straight to the DMG and you can access it. So you don't have to have shortcuts for all of whatever modules you loaded. But I have all these loaded that have reference manuals, so I can go to all of them. So
cool.
I found it super convenient.
As we discussed before the show, like you can with the extension that does that for 5th edition, can you turn that off in 2nd edition, go back to the regular way?
Yes, and if you go to preferences at the top, there is this menu style, and right now it's set to menus. You can set it to sidebar and then restart. If you're a client, you should be able to do the same thing. Just set it, disconnect, and reconnect to whoever you're playing with, and then you can use the sidebar.
Excellent.
It should. That's the way it works in the 2e version as well. And what he just mentioned is this button piece up here, this whole section, is I put it in an extension so that if you have a core RPG based rule set, it'll work with that. So if you have, I don't know all of the ones that are core RPG based, but I know 5e is, and Savage Worlds is not. I mean, it kind of is, but he's still working through getting that layered on core RPG the way it needs to be. But so in effect, it should work for just about every other rule set if you want to use it, and it's in the extensions forum. The other thing that I did was I made it to where you can move these. You can unlock the portraits and move them, like put them right there, and then they'll just line up down here instead of being all up here. And the reason I got to do that was because when I bring up my combat tracker, generally I have it right here, and I'll bring up my map. And then what had happened is I have more than 6 people playing, and it would just start going across the top of the map.
Right.
So,
yep.
This way you won't have that problem. Now they'll be down here and they'll be on top of the map. Previously, they would be behind this map too. Same thing with this. And I can move that over there too.
And at this point, you have the map set as background, right?
Yep. I like this mode now that I've got rid of the sidebar. It gives me a ton more space to work with. So I prefer it. I know some people like the sidebar, and I would just suggest try.
Yeah, it's the menu thing has been a struggle for me personally, but I definitely see the value of having more real estate on the screen. That's super.
Yeah, and I will say even myself, it's muscle memory that I'm going over here, like I'm thinking, oh, I need to get the effects. I'm like, and I'll remember, oh, they're over here, click on it. But I got to get my muscle memory used to using these things over here instead of that. So the other thing I wanted to show is some of the things that changed with character sheets. And mainly, this is the logging portion. For AD&D, whenever you add a level or add a class or a kit or a level to a character now, it's logged. And you can revert that, whatever they added. So, like, if somebody accidentally drags and drops a dwarf on top of their elf, it would generally cause a nightmare for the DM to have to go through and clean that up. But what you could do is you can go in here and you can find where they added whatever they added. Like, say you wanted to remove for whatever reason they didn't get the tumbling skill, you could just ask me, "Oh, are you sure you want to remove that?" I say, "Yeah." It reverted it, and it took that away. And if we go look at his
Holy crap!
build,
We need that for 5th edition.
it's gone now.
That's
See, now it
amazing.
just says etiquette. And you can also revert like points, like whenever they get experience points. I don't think I've given this one experience points, but like when he rolled his hit points, and let's see if I can. Stacko is a good one. So you can see if you mouse over, it'll show what the previous value is 19, and it switched it to 18. If you see the text there, and if you're like, oh, I don't like that. That shouldn't be there. You can click it and revert it, and it'll take it back to what it was before, which was 19.
Yeah, that's
you
super
can see
cool.
Stacko's 19.
Because one of the big things, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but
No, go ahead. You're fine.
Just to clarify, that's a huge thing, especially for those of us that play 5th edition all the time. If you accidentally level your character, or if you and it's a nightmare to go and try to undo that. And if you had this log thing, that would be awesome.
So the way the players can see this too, but they won't have these options to undo. They'll just see, all the things that were changed, and they can mouse over and see what it did. So they can also look at it. One of the things I would recommend, like if you had a Thaco set here and a Thaco set here, and you altered it to this one, it's going to go back to what that says as its previous. You're going to revert to whatever it is you're changing it to that state. So it's a little thing, but there is also on our new characters, and I've got one in here somewhere. Maybe. I added these little, and it's a little simple thing, but I'm trying to. I know that the Smartwork guys are trying to come up with a tutorial way of creating characters. I'm trying to go at it a different way to where it's built into the character sheet to where it's usable all the time. But right now, just the first stage of it is these kind of things where you can click on that. It'll bring up the different things that those are related to if you've got the modules loaded. So it makes it a little easier. I mean, it's a little simple thing, but my idea in the future is to have a red arrow that, like, if you're going through the tutorial mode, it'll like put a red arrow on, like the build right for most, even 5e this way. You want to set your abilities first, so I'd have like a button pointing to this, and then once that's been set, it'd do another red arrow to this, and then they could just click on it and bring up the races. Same thing with classes and stuff too. So.
Yeah, because you want to do it in the right order, right? That's excellent.
Yeah. The other thing is the order reorganization stuff. Like this guy, see, he's picked up 2 gems and he wants them in his belt pouch. Normally, you just click on that little text box and you type in belt pouch and blah. Well, you can grab these things. It'll bring up this little pointer and you just drop it and it'll move it for you. I mean, it's a little simple thing, but super useful. And if you want to take it out, you can just drag and drop it on itself and it'll pull it out. The same thing works in the actions tabs. When you have like an ability like this that has a bunch of things and you want to reorder them, you could do the same thing, drag and move them wherever you want to.
Oh my god, I wish. Oh Jesus. Get you working on 5th edition, my friend.
I wish I liked it because there's more money in 5th edition.
But these little simple things that you're showing us are, I mean, 80% or more of the people that I know that use Fantasy Grounds and play 5th edition would love these things to be in that, have that happen too.
And I completely understand that. That's mainly why these features are there, is because I don't like doing some of that stuff as well. So, and you can do the same thing with initiative. And let me bring up some stuff here so we can add some guys. A couple of things I want to cover with this stuff first. This see-through, this transparent thing is just me. I'm testing. Right now it's an extension. so that I can have this over a map and still kind of see what's behind it.
Gotcha.
I may do more of that, but I'm not sure when I'm going to do that. But I wanted to note some things that some people may not be aware of that used to be. If you're making NPCs for an encounter, generally you'll just drag and drop the NPCs in there like these guys. But if you have one guy that has a better AC than another, another guy uses an axe instead of a sword, for 2E, you can... say we wanted to give a bastard sword. You would just drop it. I'm going to unlock it first, actually. Drop it there. And when the guy spawns, he'll spawn with that attack. And you can just add as many as you want. It'll keep scrolling or wrapping, and you can just stack on as many things as you want. It won't put the actual item on the thing, but it'll put the attack. So if you have one guy that has a longbow, like these guys were archers and they were orcs, I just dropped that there. So when they spawn, this guy right here, I think is the one. Hold on a second. So it's this guy. You can see in his actions that he has an attack with the longbow right there. And actually, you can see it over here too. Sorry. Simple thing, but same thing. AC and hit points, you can set them if they're like different than normal orc. You got a leader orc, and he just has more hit points or better AC. You can just set that there. The other thing I wanted to show are auras, which I kind of got the idea to do this from watching. I think it was one of the guys that does stuff for you. He's done a lot of stuff recently. What's his name?
Kent?
Yeah, that's him. Yeah, that's the guy. I saw he had a post about it, and I read how he did it. And I was like, that's an interesting idea. I kind of went a different direction than he did, but same idea. But what happens is let's pull up the effects list. I've got an effect here. And this is probably the point that you would want to see next, so it's kind of tiny, but I'm going to paste a link to the instructions, the wiki for it, so you can see, but it's an effect, and it's just aura, and then it's a distance, how far is the aura in effect, who does it affect, foes, friends, or all, or none, and then the actual the color. You can use the HTML color codes, or you can use, there's a set list of codes that I have pre-configured. If you look at that wiki, you'll see which ones they are. And then the effect that you want to be applied to that group. So in this case, this effect is going to, if they are of a type orc, which these guys are, it'll apply an attack -1 if they're within 10 feet of him. So if I drop that on him, you can see it puts this little thing around him. If you move, it goes with him. It's an aura. It's just like the threat range. You can see like that gray shadow that shows up when I mouse over.
Yeah.
That's the threat range thing. So I just use the same API calls to make this yellow thing that goes around it in the same distance. So if you like measure from there to there. No, there we go. Yeah. So you can see it's 10 feet. The aura is 10 feet from the person. So it doesn't count him. It's 10 feet away from him.
Right.
So if we go ahead and we'll roll initiative, buddy, him. I'm not going to worry about him. Let's go to this guy. So this guy is going to move in here, target him, and then make an attack. And if it works right, you should see an adjustment on his roll of -1, because that's what the aura does. Now, if you moved him out of that, I think that's far enough. Yeah, you'll see it goes away. So it doesn't put any extra effects on everybody that's around. It just checks when you're doing an action that it sees if there's anything on the map that'll affect him. And if it does, it applies it. But that's how that works. So I've been really happy with how it works. The only issue with it is it assumes that you use maps. It assumes you have tokens on your map. So for the 2E rule set, I probably won't code the spell effects directly with that, because I can't assume that people are going to have those. But what I think I will do is I will add the like these kind of effects here in the player's handbook as optional things, optional methods of using, like protection from evil, 10-foot radius, Or if you have say a fire elemental that you want everybody to be within 10 feet to take damage every time they're in that area, say they're getting burned, when it's their turn, if they're within that area, they'll take the ongoing damage.
Something to point out right now is that at this point you can only do squares, right? You can't do, like, if you have a radius of 10 feet, then you can't do a circle.
Right. That's a limitation of the API. Right now, they only have squares. I think if I put this guy here, it probably won't trigger because it's no, it actually did, because it must just be right in the spot. But and that's because the radius, the aura is actually circular. So if you get really close, like if I probably put him halfway, it probably wouldn't work. Yeah, see, he's touching it, but it's because he's at an angle. It's actually when you're doing a distance calculation, it's actually to there, not to there. But when the thing that's showing you the visual, it's just doing squares. It doesn't understand radius or circles. So that's one of the things I hope they add at some point, so I can change it to where it's actually a circle. You can use it for various other things. I found it very useful for light sources. Like if you have, say, a weapon that glows, stick that on there, and it'll give you a little circle for that. So if you need to know that he can only see that far, there's other ones you can put. Let's see. That is a light spell. So
That's
So
pretty cool that
cool.
it'll like the colors and everything. So okay, well, what color does this mean? And then you have it all color coordinated. And
Yeah,
stuff
that's
like
super cool.
yeah. And I've got a link in the instructions if you guys, not you guys, but if anybody needs to use a different color, so you can use the color code. So it's you can do whatever color that is an HTML color code, but for convenience sake, I stuck in a bunch of just standardized colors.
So
You
do you
can,
need
you can
to,
obviously use the words too: white, yellow, cyan.
Yes, yeah.
do you need to know the hex numbers in order to change some of these colors, or would
The
that be
default
good?
ones that I included, like red and yellow and green and cyan and violet and purple, all those, those are just, it'll match those. If you want to do something that's not in that, you'll have to get the HTML color code from the site that I linked. Or there's a million of them. You just type in HTML color codes and you can find a site that has them. You just need to strip off there's like a pound number a pound character in the front of it, which is the hashtag. You strip that off on most of
Right.
them, and then it should
Yep.
be all right. So the other thing I wanted to show is on the party sheet. The one thing, this is really, it's another one of those little simple things, but you can just click this X or the cross swords, and it'll add them to the combat tracker. So if you have like 10 guys here, you don't have to drag and drop everyone. You just click the X and it'll put them over there. And if you've got 3 of them that are in and 5 of them that aren't, it'll only put the ones that aren't.
I want that to be the sound effect every time enemies.
Fifth edition
There you go.
players watching tonight's show are just going to be like, "Why don't we have that? Why don't we have that? What about that? Why don't we have that?"
It's
because we don't have Celestian doing it.
Yeah, right. We need to
right.
recruit him somehow.
If the THACO system didn't confuse the fuck out of me, I mean, I would attempt, second edition.
That's the
It's
benefit
really-
of playing
It's really simple.
in Fantasy Grounds.
That's true. Yeah. Fantasy Grounds takes the math away, so all I have to do is
Yeah.
I'm just gonna attack shit.
Right.
Yeah.
By the way,
I mean, you see here, it does all that for you.
yeah, it does.
Basically, like armored class in reverse, anyways. Kind of.
See, you say that, and I'm already confused. I'm like, what do you mean
Yeah.
in reverse?
Well, when you've been playing as long as I have, then this is all easy stuff. So
Whatever, Grandpa.
Well, well, the thing is that Fantasy Grounds takes all that complication out. I mean, that's one of the biggest features that I think Fantasy Ground has over any of the other ones is you can automate this kind of stuff. Like, I have people. One of the guys that's been the most active in my game, in the past year and a half, he had never played AD&D ever, and he is enthusiastically playing every day. I mean, he's the first person there. He pretty much leads the group, but he doesn't necessarily know all the rules. I mean, he knows the stuff about his class and what he can do and that kind of stuff because he's played with it, but he doesn't keep track of THAC0. I mean, you go to the character sheet, and this is up there, but don't need it. The upper section where it tells you THAC0 and stuff. I put that there just because I thought it looked neat, and honestly, it's useless. This matrix is, it's not necessary. But if somebody wanted,
you have,
yeah. So if and as far as that goes, when you roll the dice, it tells you what AC you hit, and in fact, on the back end behind all this, where all the code is running, it converts it to ascending AC, and then whenever it displays it, it converts it back to descending, because that's the way 5e did it, and 3 and all the other ones. So mathematically, it doesn't matter. It's just flipping values.
By the way, everybody, don't go anywhere. When we do the contest or the drawing, I will let the winner pick what they want. These are the 3 core books from 2nd edition: the Player's Handbook, DMG, and Monster Manual. If you win, you can tell me which one you want, and I'll give it to you. And that's how you do it.
Yeah, if you've never played and you're going to get one of those, get the Player's Handbook.
That's what I figured. I was going to just say Player's Handbook just be done with it, but I figured I'd let them choose. They're all the same price, so what's the difference to me? But yeah, Player's Handbook's what you want if you don't have anything.
And if somebody already has it, then they got the choice of the other 2.
Right.
But one of the things I wanted to point out is, in 2e, we have inventory on NPCs. Like all of my orcs right now have short swords, and they have a certain amount of money on them. And generally, that doesn't mean anything to somebody that's got a pre-built adventure, because typically the treasure is going to be in a parcel, and you would use that. But if you wanted to generate an encounter on the fly, and you configure your orcs to have some coins on them or other items, what you can do is you can drag and drop an encounter into the parcel list. It'll put all the money that each of them has here, and then their equipment here. So you don't have to do parcels, or you can just pre-configure your NPCs and then drag and drop them there. You can also, on the XP section, just drag and drop the encounter in there for that. I mean, I think that's standard in 5e, but if you want, you can also take a parcel list. For those of us who use experience for our treasure experience, that kind of stuff, you can drag and drop that in there, and it'll drop all those and put the experience and calculate the values for the gold for XP. Probably not something 5e people understand, but it makes it a little more convenient. It's not something that 2e does a lot, but I know some of the guys that use the rule set are also playing 1e, so that's what's for them.
Well, the nice thing about it too is if you're like a developer or something, and you're building an NPC, you can just drag in this weapon, this armor, and drop it on the NPC instead of having to go in and parse out every single action that they do like you have to do in 5e. It's nice.
Yeah, absolutely. You can drag and drop. And I mean, if you drop weapons in here, like say we want a long sword, drop that in there. It's going to add it just like it would for a PC to their page. But if you drag and drop him into the the parcel thing, it's now going to put all the stuff he had, the amber and the longsword and stuff too. So just my thought was to make it a little easier if you're doing on the fly DMing, so you don't have to have all the parcels and stuff pre-worked out. You can have at least some semblance of some extra items that you don't have to go digging around for.
Yeah.
No, we can still take a NPC and then convert it over and make a PC out of it, right?
Yes, that was something that has been in for a long time, but yeah, a lot of people may not be aware of it. But down at the very bottom, there's a clone to PC. So for whatever reason, somebody charms orc number 2, it'll create an orc character sheet, and then you can let somebody take control of it. I don't know a lot of people that do it, but it was mainly I did it for people that charm things and their familiars and stuff, so they have easier access to it. You can also go the other way around. Sure. Yeah, down here you can clone a PC to an NPC. Just takes it back the other way.
Holy shit.
Yeah, it's also a way if you wanted to play something that was out of the normal, like maybe a centaur or something. You could create a character out of it, play it.
Yeah, it may be a little easier to actually make the race. I won't go into how you make a race, but that would be the direction I go. Like I said, most of the use for me was people charming them or getting a familiar. Or, I mean, even if they want to just like control their horse's attacks or something,
Right.
you could give them full control. You can with an NPC, but it's pretty limited on what they can do. I mean, you can like drag and drop an NPC on their portrait and it'll open it up for them and they can do certain things, but I had some issues with certain things not working, certain things working, and it just seemed more convenient, so I can just say, here, you take that. You do all that. I don't want to mess with it. The other thing was under preferences. There's a couple of new options. One of them was this menu setting, so if you want to use it, set it to menus and reload. When you first load up a campaign or loading up an old campaign, it's going to ask you a question. It's going to say, hey, do you want to use this? Do you want to use the new menu system? And you can say yes or no. If you do, this is where you can change that. The other option is there's some optional rules that I didn't have before, and I didn't think anybody would ever use it. But you can turn off encumbrance entirely. It's actually a rule in the book, and I didn't know it, so that's why it wasn't there. But it is now. And then the other thing was down here at the very, very bottom, there's a system option. And this is what this does is every time that I start up this campaign, it makes a backup of the DB file. So if something happens, worst case scenario, I can get to what I did last time. So it will add a lot of little files there, and if you've got, if disk space is not a concern, and these files aren't that big anyways, you can turn it on. By default, it's turned off just because I didn't want somebody to have 200 files in their directory. But
doesn't Fantasy Grounds make a backup of that anyway?
When you have an update, whenever they change the version numbers or they do a database conversion or that kind of stuff, yes, but it's not every time.
Oh, I could have sworn every time you opened a campaign, it made a backup of it when you closed it. I thought that was a thing.
If you go back to the startup screen, it does. If you just go straight out, it doesn't.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's right, everybody. I didn't know something about Fantasy Grounds. Mark the date.
Yeah. Dude, there's so much shit I don't know about Fantasy Grounds.
I literally learn something every time I open it.
Yeah.
I'm just waiting for Rod. I'm just waiting for Rod to start coding all of this stuff so that we can have drop-in coding like we do with 5e.
Yeah, well, it's not gonna happen. I mean, not by me. I know how to sell shit. A lot of people misunderstand what I do. I know how to sell. I don't know how to create. I mean, I got lucky with the initial 5e codings that I did 3 years ago. That I just applied my brain as hard as I could at the wiki and made every possible permutation of code for spells, feats, race traits, and class features. I did that. And quote unquote, that's coding, but I don't know jack about XML and Lua. I don't know anything. I just know how to sell the shit. I don't know how to make it. I got to get people on my team like Diablo Bob and Kent McCullough and Robin Nix to create stuff so that I can sell it. I don't really know how to do what he's doing. My avenue of approach on this would be to somehow convince Celestian to join my team and work on 5e shit, but I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah, like I said, I wish I liked 5e more than 2e because there's definitely more money in it.
Well, I just like to hear you say the phrase, I like 2e.
I love 2e.
Yeah. I'm sorry, Fury. What was that?
Oh, I was going to say, never say never. I mean, I'm sure there's a number of he would do it.
Well, if you knew how much Bob and Kent were making, you might consider it. Matakiri too. So
I wanted to show one last thing here, and it's another simple little thing. When you level up, you used to have to go and find the class, and then get there and find the thing and drag and drop it or whatever. People that actually were in the know that you knew that you could just grab this little dot here, the shield, and drag and drop it back on top, and that would work.
Yeah.
But to facilitate it a little better for people that don't know that this little green dot when you click it, and I don't think that it pops up a yes no window. You can't see it on my shared because it's a Windows based pop up thing. But what it does is it's saying, "Are you sure this cannot be undone?" And then if you say yes, then it just applies that class is leveled up. So the
So
little
like
thing.
a safety feature, so no one accidentally fucks up and be like, "Oh, I'm going to level myself up twice."
Yeah. And just to make it a little more, I mean, people understand the green plus means add. They don't know what this black dot means. I mean, they wouldn't know to drag and drop it back on top to add a level of that. But yeah, it's a safety feature. And one of the other things I did, and this was after I did the log, so it kind of makes the log one part of, like we were talking about, if they drag and drop the dwarf race on here. In this, you can't. If there's a race that's already there, it won't let you do that unless you hold control and drag and drop it on it. So it's just being paranoid and safe, I guess. So if you have,
That's why we give character creation classes in the college, so they know how to.
Yeah.
what would be awesome is if you didn't need a class to make a character.
Right? If it just had little, maybe if it had little red arrows that showed you do this first, and then go to this red arrow and do this. Oh wait, you already talked about that.
That's my goal right now. I'm kind of laying off. I all last year I probably did like 20 or I don't know 20 or I did a lot of stuff last year, book wise, the developing content, for Fantasy Grounds. So I'm trying to focus a little bit more on the rule set, especially with FGU right now. And that's kind of why all this aura and all this other stuff I was able to get done. But hopefully, FGU will get a little bit more stable so I can start working on that. Right now, I've kind of switched to doing content. I'm trying to get Not Below done, and I suspect that's going to take me like 3 or 4 months because it's.
Yeah, I'm trying to get. I'm still trying to get layers done. So
Stuff is big. So that's really all I had to cover as far as new stuff. I mean, if anybody has any questions about any of this stuff,
Yeah, no,
feel
I
free
know.
to ask me.
I want to say to the chat there, I did see. I wasn't not paying attention. I just didn't want to break his flow. And I know some of you did ask questions in the chat that just went by. We didn't do it, so I apologize for that. But if you guys have questions now, we'll focus on the chat, and you guys can shoot your questions in there, and we'll answer them. Meantime, I'm gonna go ahead and do a giveaway. So let's bring that up, and I will do a little drawing, a little raffle they like to call it.
You start that. I did see Lensman was asking if you can sell second edition content on the DM's Guild. The answer is no, you
Absolutely
cannot.
not. You can on Drive-Through RPG, but not
No,
on. You can't?
no,
Oh, I didn't know that.
it is. Yeah, only WotC can sell that stuff. You can't. Now you can make if you make an adventure in Osric, which is a clone of 2E or AD&D, and you can sell that on a drive-through RPG. But there is no part of 2E can you put anywhere.
Oh no, I didn't know that. Yeah.
Except for Fantasy Grounds.
All right. Let's see.
and only the stuff that they say that we can do. So
All right. So here we go. If you want to be entered into the drawing for one of the core rulebooks for second edition, enter Core 2E in the chat. Exclamation point Core CRE number 2 letter E. And then we'll run a 2-minute timer here, and then I'll draw a winner. And again, you can have your choice of the Player's Handbook, the Dungeon Master's Guide, or the Monster Manual from second edition. And for those of you that may have
used Rob to man. Sorry.
sorry. For those of you that joined us later, didn't hear me say it before. Say it. The second edition rule set is included. So if you have Fantasy Grounds, the rule set itself is already in there for free. So this would just be some supplemental material that you'd need if you want to, think about running some games or whatever. What were you gonna say, Mike?
I was just gonna say you should have used Rob Tui as your, enter
No,
this
because
thing.
both 2E and Rob 2E are codes in chat already that do other things. I got caught doing that before. I was gonna use my own name, and then it made a whole list of crap, and I was like, what is happening? And I might have taken those out, but I knew not to do that because I didn't want to cause a problem. All right, only 12 people entered so far, so you got a good chance, whoever you 13 people. And if you entered and don't see your name in that little box, you probably typed it in wrong and should do it again.
Really cool, Celestian. Like, great work.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think people appreciate how much goes into all the stuff you've created, so that is fantastic. And even though I don't play and have never played second edition, believe it or not, I went from first to fourth. It's fantastic, and I'm kind of jealous that it's. All right, let's see who wins. The winner is George Orr. Nice job, George. Well, you didn't really do anything except type the thing. When I say nice job, I meant to say congratulations. Not nice job. That doesn't apply. Anyway, George, you know what to do. Send me a message in Discord, and as a matter of fact, send me your Fantasy Grounds forum name and also which book you'd want, and then after the show's over, I'll get that to you. So congrats to George on that. Okay, did anybody have other questions that we were looking at here?
Bob is being a troll, but I'm going to answer him.
What's
This
he?
is
Does it
Bob.
work with Unity?
Insofar as anything works with FGU, it works with FGU. If that answers your question.
Yeah, there you go. Insofar as. That's all one word. Insofar as. Now's your chance.
It works,
everybody.
but there's some issues with it. But
any plans for Core RPG extension to do the log feature and maybe condensed CT?
Oh no. Oh no. There's no. I mean, the CT and this is DM side only. The players still see the old version. I get a lot of pushback whenever I change the UI. I mean, just this menu thing up here. I was going to make this the default for the rule set, and I got pushback from SmartWorks. They said, no, you can't do that. You need to go ahead and use the sidebar because we want them to be kind of uniform, and I kind of understand. But so that's the reason it does various things.
As far as pushback personally against that menu thing, can you give us any names of people that have given you pushback on that?
No.
Okay, I will. Rob Tui.
No. You can't tell me that I can't do it. It's people.
No. What I meant by pushback is just that I didn't like it. But what I didn't know, and that you explained to me before the show, and you also showed everybody in the audience, is that you can turn that off. You can go back to the old thing. Because there is an extension for that, guys. If you like that menu system where it deletes all the stuff on the right-hand side of the screen and it makes all the menu stuff just up here in the upper left, you can get an extension on the forums that will do that for 5e because Drake uses it in our Saturday night game. So now I know I can.
It's called Better Menus.
Better Menus. There you go.
Yeah, send me a link to that, Mike.
Can you show how to flip back and forth with the menu? Oh, well, so Tom, you have to click in the options and then you have to reload Fantasy Grounds. So I don't know if we want to show
and the
that,
reason the reason that you have to do that is that Fantasy Grounds doesn't have a way to hide a panel. You can close a panel, and this and the sidebar are both panels. So I can't programmatically do that. I can't say close this, open this, close this. With a panel, panels are generated like at the start. So if I switched them to all be Windows, maybe could, but that would be changing core RPG stuff, which is, it's just easier to change it and then reload. If you're going to use one or the other all the time, just you'll set it and you'll be done with it. You won't have to mess with it.
Right. Anymore. That's what people do, is pick which one they like the best.
And as far as the 1E rule set, no, it's not official. Or not the rule set. The 1E extension is not official. That is just something I do on the side for people that play 1E.
The reason his map doesn't move, Marmusman, is that he, and this is a Fantasy Grounds thing, I think you can do this in any rule set, he locked his map as the background. There's a button up top on the right that you can do that with. And you can make the entire background the map, which is one of the reasons he decided to make a menu where it got rid of all the stuff on the right so that your map is, you can see. And then he did talk about that transparent chat bar thing is not a thing that's available now. It's something he's working on, I believe, is what you said, right?
Yeah, right now it's an extension.
Okay.
Because one of the things that don't show up on these really well, I mean, you can see the chat box has a little white line around it, but if you have tables, the tables keep the black one, but in the Core RPG 3.3.11, which is not out yet, they changed those to white, but it's not out yet, so I haven't really messed with it. Because you wouldn't be able to see it's a table if it was black. You just see text.
Yeah, I'm hoping 0.11 should have been. I mean, I don't know what's taking. I don't know how they do it. People think I know stuff, but I don't. I'm just in the dark like everybody else. Stefan, was there anything we talked about or that we missed that you'd like to throw in?
No, I think we covered just about everything that's new on 2E. Kind of got an emergency going on here, so I'm going to bug out, guys.
Okay,
talk
all right.
to you guys
Thanks.
later.
Yeah, thanks for coming, Stefan.
Thanks, Stefan.
Stefan.
Oh, it's Stefan. Wow, the whole fucking time I'm calling him Stefan. But I was thinking, his name is his screen name is Stefan.
It's actually Stephen.
Oh,
it's actually Stephen. Like it's like the old Stephen.
The reason I was trying to make it Stefan is because Stefan de Wolf made me think of Steppenwolf, and I was trying to rhyme it. That's how I got that. But Steven, okay, there we go.
Yeah, you're not the first one.
Steven with 2 F's, everybody. I don't have an applause button. I don't have. I need to get an applause button. I can make that so easy. I just haven't ever done it. All right, thanks, buddy, for coming.
So, Diablo Bob asked another question. Have you thought about using the circle pointers on a lower layer rather than the square underlay? Well, if they actually had circular API layer options like they do for the Aura stuff, and I honestly I can't remember the function off the top of my head, but it's a built-in API call. They don't have a circular thing. It's only square. Now, maybe that'll change in FGU at some point. Right now, I don't jack with layers in FGC. It's just not even worth my time. It's too much work to do simulated layers in FGC. I know a lot of people will do it, but I'm going to wait until FGU when there's actual layers built in.
Yeah. All right. I guess nobody has any more questions. Well, probably do, but they don't ask them. That's all right. What about Robin and Fury? Any more questions from you guys before we end it?
Think of any, but I think this is really awesome, and it kind of makes me want to play 2E.
Yeah, I had that as he was going through. I was like, I don't want to get into another system, but I want to use all the things you've made in 2E. I want to use these fantastic.
So like a one shot, small mini event.
The only thing about doing a one shot is you would just get a taste of everything, and then it would be over, and then you'd be like, and then I'd have to do more. Yeah, I don't know, but
then
it would be like a treat, you know.
A 2E campaign, yeah.
Yeah, what if I ran a 2E campaign on Rob 2E channel? Everybody would go nuts. Yeah. All right. Well,
sign me up.
We'll think about it.
You need to. You need to at least try. I would love to see you try it because I know I can just. I can feel the frustration levels at some point with you because I know some of this stuff would frustrate you.
I'd basically have to read the player's handbook and learn. I mean, because I don't know. I've never played. I don't know the rules, And so
you played AD&D, dude. It's the same. It is the same. Don't let anybody tell you different.
Oh, it's the same as AD&D. Just so when they did that, and I think it was '89, when they went from AD&D to Second Edition, what were the changes? Why did they do that?
Well, the biggest thing they did was organize the books and pull out all the language that hasn't been used for 100 years that was in the DMG and the Player's Handbook. And don't get me wrong, I loved the first edition stuff, and I still find the DMG, the 1E DMG, is one of the best books, in RPGs that's out. But the rules were just confusing. They contradicted themselves in multiple places. It was just hard for a new person to pick up those books and read. And if you didn't have a group that could teach you, it was very difficult. But the 2E versions streamlined the learning process so much better. I mean, it was a lot like if you ever played the Red Box, how Frank Mincer, wrote that to where it was a teaching thing. They kind of do the same thing in the 2E books. The systems, I mean, there are some differences. I mean, initiative is vastly different in 2E versus 1E. But, the people say that the initiative in 1E is like the Kobayashi Maru of AD&D. There's no real wrong way to do it.
Yeah.
But in 2E, it's very clear. Initiative has been abstracted a lot, so it makes it a lot easier for people to understand it. But THAC0 was formalized back when we were playing 1E. We used THAC0, so we were already doing it whenever 2E came out, and I think THAC0 was also on Basic as well. So everybody that asks, I know there's a lot of people that really